Donna, it is such a great honor to have you on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Liz.
I am a huge fan and I have been following your work for many, many years. I am a huge LinkedIn advocate. And so when I got connected to you and I'm preparing to meet with you, I'm so excited because I am just going to be a learner and take everything in today. So again, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with me and my listeners.
You are very welcome. I'm excited to be here. And as I said to you prior to this call, it's like no holds bar. Whatever you ask me, I'm going to answer. I'm going to try to give you the big picture, and really even we can delve into details. You just tell me what you want.
Yes. And so you are, I just want to just say, you are a LinkedIn expert. And, again, I think LinkedIn is such a, versatile tool, and a lot of people don't recognize the value of the platform. And so we're really going to take a deep dive into all things LinkedIn. But before we do that, I'm just curious, what ignited your passion in really delving into LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's not like the sexiest of platforms, is it? People always ask, like, why LinkedIn? Like, of all of the ones that are out there, why would you put all those eggs in that basket? But I come from a very corporate background. And back then I did a lot with CRM development. And because of that and the Salesforce automation, part of my background, when LinkedIn appeared to me, not at the very beginning, but a little bit later on, after I got to know LinkedIn a little bit better, I started to see how powerful it was, and that this was really a tool. It wasn't just a network, but this was a true tool for a person to have their own database of connections, and how important that is. I was in sales for a very long time. In fact, I was in a very high pressured sales environment. And, I was cold calling, and I was making a lot of calls. And it was at that point when I started to recognize, I need to get past the gatekeeper. I need to be able to keep that network and, alive. I need to engage with people. I need to learn about people, but I also want to brand myself, right? And LinkedIn just kept coming back as, wait, this is a tool that I could do all of these things. And I own it myself, right? It's not a company's, it's mine. And that was very, very attractive. And I remember the day when I was cold calling, and I was looking at the person that I was cold calling and wanted to learn more about them. And I remember thinking, they're probably looking at me. And what are they seeing? And I remember looking at my profile and seeing a dry, dull, out of date copy and paste, from my resume. And I was embarrassed, because I thought to myself, wait, at that moment, I thought, I have the ability to shape how others perceive me. That power is mine. And all I need to do is tell a really engaging, warm, authentic story. And people are going to interface. They're going to forge a different rapport with me sooner because of that. And that right there was really my epiphany. And this was in the 2007, 2008 timeframe. And it was in 2009 that I started my own business, writing LinkedIn profiles for executives and professionals and entrepreneurs. We've written over 6,000 LinkedIn profiles, believe it or not. And I've got over 20 writers on my team, and I love what we do. I just love what we do.
I never knew I would meet somebody else as excited about LinkedIn. I want to say I discovered LinkedIn around 2007 as well. And it was because I would go to conferences and I would be collecting, exchanging cards. And I'm like, I forget, and what, their names and what did we talk about? And so I'm like, LinkedIn is great to be able to keep track of the people that I'm meeting. And just like you're saying, people are looking at my profile, and so digging in there and trying to figure things out. And I have to say that I would always do research, go online, like how to optimize LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Your name popped up a lot in a lot of the things when I was doing presentations, that your content was showing up. You are a trailblazer for
Thank
LinkedIn.
you.
And so again, that's why I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about all things LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn has evolved
Oh yeah.
so much. I mean, you go on there one day and the next day there's new features. And when you're a regular user, you're like, okay, I'm learning something new, and you just kind of add on to it and you know the value. But for someone who's coming in very new, it can be extremely overwhelming,
Yeah.
or there's just misconceptions on how what the tool is used for. Now, we have so much to dig into. So you have a framework, a methodology, and how you approach LinkedIn. Can we kick it off with that?
We sure can. So, I've been doing this for so long, and it always amazes me because people look at LinkedIn and they see the complexity and they get overwhelmed, and it is intimidating. However, when you've been in it as long as I have, and you've worked with as many people, I've been able to simplify it, and I've simplified it into 4 points. All right, so it's a 4-point methodology. I call it SOAR. SOAR to success on LinkedIn, and SOAR is an acronym. So we can start with the very first point of SOAR, which is strategize, and it's something that very few people ever do on LinkedIn. Normally, they jump in, they create a profile, maybe they copy and paste it from a bio resume, and then they maybe they start connecting. Like at that point, they just don't know what to do, where to go. How do you do this? So the S in SOAR stands for strategize. And the first thing you need to do is you really need to say to yourself, why did I sign up for LinkedIn? What do I hope to get out of LinkedIn? I want you to know that ahead of time, because so often people say, oh, I signed up, but what were you expecting? Were you working towards it? Like you can't get there if you don't know where you're going. So you need to know, why are you doing it? Are you doing this for job search? Are you doing this for reputation management? Are you doing this for branding? Are you doing this for prospecting and sales? Are you doing this because you want to use it as a platform, a podium for your expertise? Figure it out. It could be one of those. It could be all of them. It could be some of them. There could be something else there that I haven't even mentioned, but really understand why, right? Because when you understand why, that's going to control your message moving out. And once you know why you're on LinkedIn, and that can change, of course, but once you know why you're on, you need to think about your target audience. Who are they? Because your message is absolutely different if your target audience is a recruiter versus a potential client. Totally different message, totally different story. And you need to be able to understand, because a lot of times when people have zero traction on LinkedIn, it's because their message is misaligned to their target audience, and they don't even recognize how they're turning off their target audience with the way they're describing themselves and their skills and who they are and what they do. Once you know your target audience, there's one more thing you need to do, and that is you need to understand your keywords. No one does this. What do you want to get found for? Why do you want to, if a person is searching for someone like you, right? Because most people aren't searching for you, they're searching for someone like you. What are those keywords? What are they using? And then you need to use those keywords in your profile. When you do that, then you're going to be more apt to turn up in search results, because a profile will never be returned in search results if the keywords a person is searching for are not on that profile, right? So that miss opportunity. You need to know what those keywords are. And so, if you're looking for a job, what is that dream job title? What are your skill sets? What are your abilities? What are your knowledge points? Those words need to be in your profile. And if they're not, you're not going to get found for opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, so much to unpack in this, the first bucket here. Now, that I think you're right on point, right? Is knowing who you are showing up as, right? On LinkedIn, and that brand. What is your brand? But then who are you marketing to? Who is that
Yeah.
target audience? And as you said, it could be clients or prospective employers. There's so many audiences. And before you can start fleshing out that profile or including those keywords, you need to know, well, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Now, kind of taking a little bit deeper here. So with the keywords, where do people miss the opportunities? Like, where can you maximize those keywords?
The headline is a fabulous place to inject keywords. You only have 220 characters, so it's not like you can, put a paragraph in there. So you want to be very, very clear. What are the primary, what are the key keywords? That's where you put into your headline. The about section, utilize it organically. Now, you've been on it long enough. You might see, and I still see it, specialties listed in the about section, and then they just ramble off all of these, these words, these strengths, these core competencies. What we found is if you just list, it's not as impactful or as powerful as if you use those words in organic narrative.
Mm,
So don't just list, tell a story and use those words organically as you tell that story. Then it'll be more effective. The other areas, job title, huge.
mm-hmm.
An area where another area that is very, very sensitive, but it's very hard to hack, is the company name. If you have keywords in the company name, your profile does so much better. And I've seen it over and over and over again. I've tested it. It continues to work, but it's not a field that you can really play with, because a company name is a company name. You
Right.
can't.
Right.
So for those entrepreneurs, if you really want to rank higher on LinkedIn, name your company your main keyword, and you may find that you truly own it on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's awesome. That's interesting. I would not have thought about that. I really like that tip about the about me section. Now, I will tell you, Donna, when I do presentations on LinkedIn, like people always ask, like, should it be really short? Because people they think about it as a resume. Like, I need to keep it brief. And what are your thoughts about when people start fleshing out that summary section? You mentioned, try to avoid listings. Now I need to go back to my LinkedIn profile because I know I have some listings there. What are people are afraid, like, to go too long, or what should I include? What are some ideas for that particular section?
you know, it is a balance, right? If you put too much in, you do risk totally boring your audience if it's dry and it's dull. Like there's certainly issues if, you just keep rambling on and you're not really saying anything. An about section, there's a reason to go long, because the more you go on, the more you can use those keywords. So there's a real good reason to have content in there. I would say this: a lot of people they don't even know how to articulate their story. They don't even know their
Mm,
story, right? And so often they get caught up in, oh my goodness, what are other people going to think? And then there's always that one person who's like, looks like you're trying too hard. Looks like you're trying too hard. And that person who says it looks like you're trying too hard doesn't try at all. You do not listen to that person. That person is like those crabs in a pot that's boiling, and they keep pulling each other back into the hot water rather than trying to each chain up and get out.
yeah.
So that's what that person is. It's okay to shine. It's okay to sparkle. There's nothing wrong with it. I want you to sparkle, and I want you to stand out, and I want you to tell your story, and I want you to be proud of your accomplishments. I want you to know what your accomplishments are. And I want you to be able to tell them in that about section, and tell them proudly and without shame.
Yeah. Donna, you just gave me the chills. I just love that. It's so empowering and inspiring. Like, Yes, tell your story and don't, and like you said, people sometimes are like, oh, you're trying to, or you're gloating, or, it's like, that's the point of these platforms, right? You want to put your best foot forward.
You do. And LinkedIn is a fabulous excuse. It's a fabulous excuse to get deliberate,
Mm,
deliberate with your story and your goals. It's a reason to
yeah.
sit down and force yourself to say, okay, who am I? What do I love? What do I hate? What do I stand for? Where do I want to be? It's such an amazing platform in that alone that it makes you get deliberate. And with LinkedIn and with the about section, it's hard. It's hard to write about yourself. No
Yeah.
one wants to do it. And if you want to do it, chances are you might be a narcissist. So, so believe me, I'm right there next to you. My clients say to me all the time, you know what, Donna, I finally picked up the phone and called you because for the last 3 years, I've been trying to write the about section. And each time I sit down, I go into the garage and I start cleaning out drawers and shelves. Like any odious task in the world is more attractive. So,
Wow.
so like, I get it, right?
Yep.
I get it. And that's something you have to do a couple things, right? One, you have to allow yourself to exist in that
Mhm.
awkward discomfort
Yep.
because it will eventually get comfortable. And that's when you start to see growth. All right. So you have to do that, or you have to say to yourself, you know what? I want to invest. I want to invest in myself. I want to invest in my future. I want to invest in my family. And I'm going to work with someone to help me, whether
Mhm.
that's a career coach like yourself, whether it's a branding specialist like what we have on our team. Sometimes you have to go with somebody. Sometimes you just have to ask for help because it's never going to get done. The days are still going to drag by and you're not going to be any further along than you were.
Yep. No, that's a great point. I think having that support, right? To nudge you and to actually get it down and write it down and talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. I
That's a
mean, whether it's coach you and help advocate and help push you, or just do it for you.
well, that's true. That's an option as well. Yes, that's right. Uh, Now, are there any other areas within this bucket that you feel that are important that we should talk about?
I think the background graphic is something
Mm,
that still consistently stays kind of gray and stripy.
yes.
And that's a place to look at, have it illustrate your brand. You don't have to go too crazy, but I think spending a little bit of time to find an image that really illustrates who you are, very powerful. Having a strong, beautiful, not that the person has to necessarily look beautiful, but it's having a professionally taken or a professionally looking headshot
Yep.
is important. Like, I don't want to give people the thought that you have to be beautiful in it or you have to be glamorous in it. What I really want people to strive for is to look friendly, to look friendly, to look open, to look approachable, to look nice, to look, warm. That to me is what we should be aiming for. And even though I'm seeing more and more very candid shots showing up on LinkedIn, and I do like that. I really do love this movement towards a more authentic representation. I still think you need to be very clear. What is your goal? Who is your target audience, and how can you best show up? And I still believe that people like to do business with successful people,
Yeah.
and you want to look as professional and successful as you can. And a really easy way to do that is through a professionally taken headshot. If you can't afford it, find a friend and have them take it of you. But it's just one of those things where you can't ignore it because it won't go away. It's always going to be there.
What are your thoughts about that video feature?
It's getting exciting. Have you been in there recently? They've just put a few more things in there. And I'm like constantly going, wow, this is the future of LinkedIn. I think they're going to do
Yeah.
so much more with it. I mean, my guess is, so what you're talking about is the cover video that
Yes.
now exists within the profile picture. And so if you visit my profile, so you go to donnaserdula.com, you look at my my profile picture, it'll look like, you know, the very nice professional headshot that I have. And then all of a sudden it changes and I'm wearing glasses and I'm talking about who I am and what I do. And it's like this brief, you know, movement video. And a person can click to watch the whole thing. You know, right now I really do think we're going to see a bigger push to get video in there. And I think this video eventually is going to be something that maybe you can have 3 or 4 videos and, you know, you can track them. And, but it's, to me, some people do well with video.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're very natural. And I think the younger generation, I think, is a lot more easygoing about video than, you know, those of us
More
who are a
natural
bit
for them.
older. It's a little bit more natural for them.
Yeah.
But so I don't want a person to feel like they have to do it. You know,
Okay.
like there's nothing worse than seeing something that's very stilted and very mechanical. Like that's not going to help. But if you're one of those people that you enjoy it, do it. You know, if you want to do it, but you're a little fearful of how you might look, I'd say let's push you into that, you know, that you know, outside of that comfort zone. Like let's try anyway.
Yeah.
But if you're one of those people that, you know, like this is just not for me, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. But you know, video is awesome when used well.
Yeah. Well, I'm challenge accepted. Like I haven't explored it yet. And, you know, I always say I practice what I preach. So I'm going to try. I'm going to just put myself out there. I'm going to check it out.
Liz, they're making it even easier. Like when they first put this out there, it was record something and hit post. It was not like, I don't know. What do you want me to do? You want me to get a top hat and cane and do a dance? Like it wasn't very clear what they were intending it for. Now you click, they give you a screen of prompts and you can click the prompt, you put it right on your image, and it says, tell us about your first career experience. You know, whatever the prompt is, they have like a slew that you can choose from. So they're actually asking you the question to elicit, you know, an interesting answer.
That's fabulous. I cannot wait to explore that. That's on my list of things to do.
Put it on there. And you can do it today because you look gorgeous. So as soon as we hang up, get out that iPhone.
Ready to go. Oh my goodness, that's great. Yeah, I'm like, I have to ask her about that video feature. All right, I know we could talk about this all day. What's the next bucket item?
So the next one is optimize. And we've already kind of talked a little bit about the optimize, but so it's strategize and then optimize. And optimize is you really do. You need to take those keywords, but you also have to think of your target audience. You got to think of that story and you got to lay out a profile that is impressive. And the LinkedIn profile, unlike any other, you know, profile out there on a social media site, is so robust. Yep. It's extensive and almost intensive. It's true. There's so much that you can put in there. You can have your full trajectory. You can, if you have publications, if you have patents, you know, organizations, volunteer experiences, courses that you've taken. I mean, it just keeps going. And so I think a big issue people have is, oh, I've got 15 minutes. Let me get this done. It's not going to take 15 minutes. Like if you don't have anything, it's going to take you hours and it may take you days. And I've seen it take weeks for some people because, you know, they don't want to do it and they're forcing themselves, blah, blah, blah. But the profile is huge. And you want to make sure that you really do. You spend time on the sections and you give an authentic response. I love first person narrative voice profiles. I like it when a person claims it and they're like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I like that. When you find one that's written in third person, typically the reason for that is they have an old bio and they just plopped it in there. It's not like they did it with any strategic, you know, thought as to their tone. It was just like, oh, I've got this. Let me, you know, dot this I and cross this T. When I'm working with clients, there are times when we do a third person voice. And the reason for that typically is because they are just so high level and they've accomplished so much that, it's weird to say things like, I ran for president of the United States. I won the Nobel Peace Prize. So certain people do have graduated to a third person voice, but for most people, I say stick in first.
That's great. And I think that a lot of times what happens is that people think that their LinkedIn profile is their resume, right? I mean, you can use your resume as a guide, but you're taking it to another level, like really humanizing your profile. Yeah. And so it's great to hear that, the first person approach and the way that you represent yourself. Now, when thinking about profile optimization, what are some areas that people are probably just missing the mark that they can really leverage that's important in terms of their profile?
So, we talked about the, infusing it with keywords. We talked about the very sensitive fields that work. We talked a little bit about the profile picture and the background graphic. I think it's taking the time to just go through it methodically and thoughtfully and tell that story as best as you can and have fun with it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And revisit it, because it's funny how they'll spend hours and days and maybe even weeks, and they get it to a point where they're very, very proud. And then they never touch it again for 5 or 10 years. So it's one of those things where you want to keep coming back to it. You want to revisit it. I'm going to say every 3 months,
that's good. Yeah.
Get in there and just see, even if you just remove an eye and put it back in, that's fine. But really think to yourself, what's changed? What can I add? What have I done? And that's going to help you in terms of the optimization, oddly enough, because if you think about it, one of LinkedIn's bread and butter is the search engine piece, right? Recruiters and hiring managers and HR professionals and people in between use LinkedIn. They are looking through search results. And for LinkedIn, they want people to keep coming back. LinkedIn wants these people to pay for the premium service. So they want to make sure that the results that they are returning are pertinent and not stale, right? They're current. So when your profile has been updated within the last couple days, couple weeks, maybe a month or two, that profile will be served higher and more often than one that was last touched 6 months ago or 8 years ago.
And that's also part of your brand, right? Because then you feel like, what happened to this person? Like your visibility. And sometimes I'll look people up. I'm like, oh, I want to connect with this person. I want to follow up on something. And I'm like, wait, they don't work there anymore. Like their current workplace is not on there.
Or it's not even that. It's like, you're looking at it, you're like, I thought this person was a seasoned professional, but it looks like they just graduated from college.
Yes, right. Because
it's totally misaligned. And sometimes what I often say to, people who call me up, I'm like, this isn't a profile. This is an obituary.
Oh no.
Like it's so far gone and past. It's like, let's bring it to, let's make it future forward.
Yes.
Right? Like, let's not just have it concentrated on who you were, but who are you and who do you want to be? Like, that's where we want a strong profile to really, exist within, is that future forward, mindset.
That's great. I love that future forward mindset and future. Yes. Now, you mentioned something earlier and I'm like, I have to ask because I get this question all the time and I'm sure you get it as well. You mentioned premium. So I get a lot of, students and clients who will ask Liz, what's the difference? And should I be on premium? What are your thoughts?
I love the question and I get it all the time. So my answer is this. when a person says, should I pay for LinkedIn? I say no. Do not pay for LinkedIn. Whatever you do, do not pay for LinkedIn. I do not want you out of the gate paying for LinkedIn. What I want you to do is out of the gate, I want you to start using LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn. Really start jumping in and getting active and having fun on the platform and use it. And what the funny thing happens is this: once you start using it and you start to find value, you start to see a return on your time investment, certain things happen. And what happens is you start to realize when it's time to pony up, when it's time to start to pay, because there are certain things you start to feel tethered by the application. You start to think, wait, when I look at who's viewed my profile, it only shows the last 5. But, I've been interviewing and I know they're checking my profile out. I really want to see exactly who and when checked it out. Time to pony up at that point, because you get to see the last 90 days of profile views when you're paying. So that's a really good idea. The other one is, especially for those who are service providers, maybe they've turned on, their services page within their profile, or maybe they're just, they want to get contacted for opportunity. Well, you can only get contacted by people who are first degree connections, or they belong to a group, they're a common member of a group that you're a member of. That's the only people who can truly message you on LinkedIn, unless they pay for an in-mail message. And a lot of people don't do that. So if you want to get those messages, you got to pony up, because you turn on open profile and anybody on LinkedIn can message you. So that's another reason. Another one is, suddenly you're realizing that LinkedIn is a search engine, and maybe you're in sales and you want to prospect on LinkedIn, or maybe you're a job seeker and you want to start doing some searches to see companies who are local, who may be interested in you, that you want to learn more about. As you start to do these searches, LinkedIn will say, "Oh, you've reached the limit."
Oh, yes, that's right.
Of searches. I remember when that happened to me. It was day 8 of the month, and they're like, "You've got to wait until the end of the month to do another search." And I'm like, "It's not going to work. Time to pony up." So those are the things that start to become very clear to you. One more thing that's a paid account versus a free account. You do a search and you want to slice and dice those results even more. Like, I want to see everyone who's been active. I only want to see the people that have been active. I want to see the people who have appeared in the news. I want to really dial in my search and refine it to a much more granular detail. Got to pony up.
Those are great tips. I think starting out, like, as you mentioned, having the free account. I work with a lot of students, so I'm like you said, I'm like, don't pay for it. You could do the 30-day trial, check it out, kind of see what are the benefits that you see. But once you start hitting limitations and you're getting frustrated, you're like, but I want more. Maybe you're more of an expert level user and you can benefit from the premium. But until then that's when you kind of decide. But at the beginning, you're saying leverage
just have
you
fun
have.
with it.
Yeah.
But you know what? The other thing is, do not take the if you haven't gotten the 30-day, wait, hold off. Do not grab that carrot.
Yes.
Use LinkedIn. Use it. And then when you're like, yes, that's when you go in, you get those 30 days, and that's when you're going to see the value. And then it becomes a no-brainer.
No, that's great. I get that question all the time. I'm like, oh, I have to ask that. So thank you for bringing it up and being so thorough in your response. All right, let's get to the third piece.
So the third one is Amplify. And if you want to amplify your message, you want to amplify your brand, you need a network to do that. And with LinkedIn, it really is, the bigger your network, the more successful you are. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying connect with everybody and anyone,
Right.
but a person who's a 10-person network versus a person who has 1,000-person network, that 1,000-person network you're just going to see so much more from it. So what I want people to do is really spend time and recognize that they've got to actively grow that network. And as you move about your day, as you have your life ahead of you, always think, wait, the person that I met, did I connect with them on LinkedIn? The people that I've been emailing, did I connect with them on LinkedIn? Those just actively connect, actively connect. And it's something that maybe you do at that moment. Maybe you do it at the end of the week. Maybe you do it at the end of the month, whatever works for you, but really spend time and think to yourself, who have I connected with? Who have I talked to? Who have I met with? And connect with them. And, a question I often get is, should I add a personalized note to my invites?
Uh-huh.
And, if you're connecting with people that you know and people that you've met, I don't think you need to, especially if it's recent. I think it's like, oh, there's Liz. I'm going to connect with her. No need to spend time in there, writing something. It's nice to, don't get me wrong. And if you have the time and the inclination, go right ahead. When you want to create that personalized note, it's more when you're revisiting, a relationship with someone that you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe that the connection is a little bit more hazy, where a lot of the same people and you'd like to connect, but they don't really know you. Add a personalized note at that point. But at the same time, you can always follow them, right? It's
Oh,
not.
can you talk about that? Yes.
So there is a difference. And when you joined LinkedIn, there was one way of connecting, and it was through a connection invite. You sent an invite, a person accepted it, and now they're a first degree connection in your network. That was very limiting, especially as LinkedIn started to put forth all of this wonderful ability to post and engage and interact. Suddenly, if you wanted to see that, how could you do it? You'd have to connect with the person, but LinkedIn has already stated connecting is for people that you know and you trust. But clearly people don't want to subscribe to your updates, but that they don't yet know you, especially if you're an influencer. So that's when LinkedIn brought in the follow. All right. So connection is a two-way street. It's me saying, hey, Liz, love this podcast. Love talking to you. Let's connect. Let's bring our networks together. Let's share these connections. And it's you saying, yeah, Donna, sounds great. Let's do that. Following is someone saying, I don't know Liz, but I love what she's about. I love what she's posting. I love her message. I don't know her, but I want to listen to her. I want to subscribe to what she's doing on LinkedIn. Then we would follow you. And so you're not a first degree connection.
Yeah.
We're not sharing our networks, but I'm subscribed to you. And what's nice about that is if you follow a person that you don't know, and especially if the person is active, this advice doesn't work if the person never gets on LinkedIn and doesn't post anything. But if the person is relatively active, you get to see them act, you get to see what they're posting, and you can pop in there and like it and comment and start to engage. And you can actually, forge a relationship. And then after a while, all of a sudden you'll be like, wait, let me send them a connection request.
Yep.
And they know who you are. And it feels so much more authentic and real.
Oh my goodness. When I saw that, I thought that was interesting because I started getting the following and I'm like, wait, but I'm not connected to them. I'm like, oh, they're just following my content. And so then I go into their profile because if someone follows or connects with me, I go into their profile because I'm curious.
Yeah.
And so then I'll connect with them. I'm like, well, you can connect with me. I do appreciate a personalized note because, I want to know, well, why are we connecting?
Yeah.
Don, I have a question about that because I also get this question too. We get a ton of requests, connection requests, and a lot of them are, people are trying to sell you
Mm,
something, or it's just not aligned with your brand, right?
yeah.
What are your thoughts about when people try to connect with you? If they don't have any type of introduction, you don't know who they are, or they're just not aligned. You look at their profile, they're like, it just doesn't align with my brand or my messaging. Do you have reservations and just Xing that out, ignoring it? What are your thoughts about that?
Liz, my philosophy has changed a lot on how to connect on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
At one time, I was a lion, a LinkedIn open networker. You just had to breathe near my screen and I'd connect with you because I wanted to have as many connections as possible because it gave me um, more the ability to see deeper into my network. It allowed me to get found. It allowed more people to hear my voice. And so I was all about connecting. And I still believe that having a really strong, thick network is a good thing. With that said, if you don't know the person, if the person is nowhere, within your realm of industry or knowledge, um, if you sense that it's very much either a bot or just someone who has a different mindset on LinkedIn, one of not just, giving, but one of like selling, it's
Mhm.
okay. It's okay to ignore it. It's absolutely okay to ignore it. Um, I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're being pressured to connect. I do want people to experience a little bit of that sense of discomfort because I don't think it's a bad thing. Oftentimes people say, my competitor just requested a connection and what do I do? And I always say, what did the Godfather say? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So, but it's one of those things where you have to just be smart. You have to know what your philosophy is. It might be a very, very close network. There's nothing wrong with that. It could be, a really liberal, open network, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or it might be something in between. And,
Mhm.
for each person that tries to connect with you, you look at them, you make a decision, and you move on. And you just sort of figure out where you want to go. I will say that what I love seeing a network that is relatively small, but they have a lot of followers. That to me is when that ratio is small connections, big followers. That to me is a pretty good signifier of an impressive influencer.
Interesting. Okay, that's like new territory for me. It's fascinating. Thank you for providing your insight on that. I think that's very helpful because I know I get requests, and for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, I tell people like it's okay to ignore if it doesn't align with your
Mhm.
brand or if it's just generic.
Yeah.
Um,
And one of the reasons why people may be following you more so than connecting with you is that you have the creator mode turned on, which means you do not have a connect button. You only have a follow button. And some people don't know that they can click the more and
yeah,
go and
right.
hit connect.
That's
So
right. Yes.
that could really be it more so than anything. It's just sort of like the user interface is a little confusing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm like, because I connect with people. I'm like, yeah, I just click on the more. I'm like, I want to connect with this person beyond, besides following them. Great tips. All right, we have one more.
So the first one was strategize. The second one was optimize. Then came amplify. Our
Mhm.
last one is relate. Relate. How can you now become a human being on LinkedIn? How can you relate? And you have the network, but how do you start to network? Right? That's where we're at right now. And so it's time to start getting active. It's time to scroll through that news feed. It's time to start looking at the content that your network is producing, and don't just like, but comment, and really try to engage people in a conversation. That's
Mm.
what LinkedIn is looking for. It's not just that one blurb. It's really a blurb and then a response and a reply and a reply and a reply. That's what tells LinkedIn, wait, this is relevant, intriguing, engaging, good information. So that's what you should be aiming for, is that conversation. And so create content, curate content, engage with content that's already there, and have fun.
No, that's a great strategy and tip as well. Like humanizing the experience. It's not just like you said, commenting or liking. It's commenting, being authentic. Now, what kinds of things can people be posting? What are some, people that are still feeling a little intimidated by this whole thing? What should people post?
I think the first thing they should do is don't even try to post. Like, don't even post. Like, how crazy is that? Don't post, guys. Don't post anything. Just first thing you should do is scroll through your newsfeed for a week or two, like start to learn the language, start to get the dialect of LinkedIn, because it's different than Instagram, and it's different than TikTok, and it's different than Twitter. Like, start to kind of get a sense of what other people are posting. And then once you've been in there and you've been engaging for a little while, then it becomes a little easier. Ideas start to pop up. Think in terms of what advice can you give? What advice can you ask for? You can share links, you can share quotes, you can tell stories, you can do some behind the scenes. What have you noticed? What are you reacting to? One of the great things is LinkedIn is showing like the trending news items. So see what's trending and just write a post how you relate to that information, what you're thinking about it. You want to use 3 hashtags, 3 to 5. Anything more hurts your post.
Oh,
You can tag people in your post, but make sure if you tag them that they're going to respond, because if they don't respond, it's like a black mark against your content.
interesting.
So if you do want to bring people in, do it in the comments. All right, but don't do it immediately. Give it a couple hours and then go in and pull people in. Polls are doing very, very well right now. So, and polls are pretty easy. So come up with a poll, ask a question, give 3 or 4 options, and, put that out there. Images do great. Multiple images do great. Anything that keeps a person on the post longer. So they factor in dwell time. So the longer a reader is dwelling on your post, spending time reading it, because maybe it's really, really long, or maybe it has a lot of images that they click through. Those are all signifiers to LinkedIn that this is good quality content. And that's the content that does well. With that said, I don't want people to like go on it thinking, all right, let me scam the system as best as I can. I want you to be doing it because you're doing it because you're having fun.
Yeah.
And that tends, like when you're doing it very authentically in a very real, genuine type of way, somehow LinkedIn has a way of figuring that out, and you do well no matter what. But I also find that people get on LinkedIn and they immediately start posting, and like nothing's happening, and they're not getting any views, and they're not getting many likes, and they're scratching their head. They're like, why? And the why is typically because you're not engaging on other people's posts. You're just using it as this like bullhorn and you're just shouting at people, but you're not having those other conversations. So in that situation, maybe, like put a pause on your posting and start engaging with people, and then put out a post that engages, that asks questions, that gets people responding. And I think then you'll start to find the traction picks up.
Oh my God. I'm just like sitting here just listening to you. I'm like, I feel like I'm behind the curtain of LinkedIn. Like, you have taken us on a journey, and I've learned a lot of new things, and very beneficial. I'm sure people listening are thinking the same thing. I cannot wait to go back onto my LinkedIn profile to make some updates and just using some of these strategies that you've shared today. I appreciate your generosity and your expertise in sharing with me and people listening today. Donna, was there anything else that you wanted to share?
You know what? I think what I would love to offer everybody is,
Yeah.
if you visit my website, it's LinkedIn-makeover.com, and click on free resources. And on the left column there, I have a slew of apps and tools. They're all free. One of which is the LinkedIn headline generator, which is a fabulous way to update your headline and do it in a really controlled, easy way, where it's an app. You just go through, you fill out some fields, answer some questions, and we generate a headline for you. We also have a text formatting tool in there. And within the next few days, I'm going to have a new tool, which is the LinkedIn post ideas generator. So we're going to give you the ideas of what to be posting on LinkedIn to find success. And we give you the hashtags to really make it a successful post.
That is so cool. I'm definitely going to be including all of that in the show notes, so people have access to these great tools. There's no excuse. You're doing the
No.
work.
Yeah.
Is there other content where people can that people can find that you have? I mean, you have some books too.
Behind me, as you can
Yeah,
see.
I see that, your books.
So I am a For Dummies author. So you can visit Amazon and purchase LinkedIn profile optimization for dummies. Or if you just find that you just can't do it and you do want help writing it, visit linkedin-makeover.com. I've got tons of services, to really help a person understand how to tell their story, how to stand out on LinkedIn, and how to do it in a method that feels good and not obnoxious.
That's wonderful. Donna, such a pleasure. I am just so in awe of everything that you've been doing. And this is what I love about having a podcast. I get to connect with incredible people like yourself. And so thank you so much for taking the time and being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure.